My name is Marcio Fonseca. I'm the President CEO of GRSL. I'm here today to present the most recent news release, which was the 75 meters at 293 grams per ton of silver equivalent at the San Marcial area.
Marcio, I could see so, and we saw the press release. We were keen to have you come on and maybe explain it to us and some of the people watching, listening, and reading this. So, how do you go about interpreting the geometry and orientation of the mineralized body? Are we looking at stacked breccia horizons or continuous chute, multiple subparallel structures? What do we need to know?
Yeah, what's really important for the audience to know is that this hole brought up fresh information about the epithermal system, boiling textures that carries a lot of silver, kilos of silver. And we discovered this situation and the intersection after a good interaction of the geologists, of the geochemical data, geophysical data, and the geology, as I'll show here in this map. This is very important. We have this big anomaly, and we realized that only 20% of the edge of the anomaly was tested. When we integrated the structural geology, that's these blue lines that you see on this image here, with the brown lines that also are running perpendicular, they create some traps. And when they intersect specific strata of rock that has a lot of porosity, is a volcanic rock, it creates a really perfect situation for concentration of high-grade silver. So having said that, if you go to the geological map, it's all now coming to light about how important the intrusive that we discovered, that's a porphyry type intrusive, is playing a very important role to channel fluids through these faults and create these traps. On this geological map that's available on the news release as well, we have a longitudinal section that I encourage everybody to take a look. We are showing that on the second figure here that the drill hole SMS 2509, the one that intersects 75 meters at 293 grams per ton of silver equivalent, including some high-grade silver, including 6 meters with kilos of silver, is I step out probably 100 meters below the resource, but more important, it's roughly 200 meters from the discovery hole that was 101 meter at 308 grams per ton of silver equivalent, showing that more and more we continue to get wide intersections at San Marcial. And it's still open. As I said at the beginning of the interview, is the confirmation of boiling textures at this level gives us a lot of confidence that the system is still open down deep and laterally.
Okay, and so you mentioned in the press release chlorite, hematite, hydrothermal breccias in the northwest and northeast structural intersections. Do you see these as kind of key controls on the mineralization?
It's a very important part of the whole control of the silver predominant mineralization, because when you have these blue lines that they're northeast intersecting the brown lines that are northwest, they create some chutes, and the chutes are wide. They are not 1 meter, they are on average 25 meters wide. And when this intersection goes through this specific level of volcanic rocks, which is a volcanoclastic, means a lot of different size of fragments, it creates a lot of channels for the silver to permeate and precipitate. That's why we came with this texture on the news release. When the rock is broken, but the host rock is extremely attractive for the penetration of the silver and create these boiling textures.
Right. So you're talking about channels. Are you talking about channels? Is that the same thing as like traps along the kind of intrusive contact?
That's true. That's true.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Understand. You also talk about, in just having been whizzed through the press release myself, you talk about selective high-grade gold values at depth. I mean, can you talk about how consistent these kind of gold component is across the step outs, and what could it materially change the deposit model for you?
In a previous news release, we released a new discovery that was 1 meter with close to 24 grams per ton of gold at the bottom of the hole on the parallel breccias that's sitting I hope everybody can see right on this edge of area here. And as we are drilling the drill hole 25, SMNS 2509, we also encounter some initial veins, epithermal veins that are carrying some gold, which is showing that we might be scratching a gold silk system as well. So far, San Marcial is predominantly a silver deposit, 85% silver, but we're starting to discover epithermal gold-rich veins as I speak.
Okay, and I think last time when we had a chat, you talked about potentially with the mineralization open down dip, that you thought that maybe the system could continue beyond the current drilling. Can you remind me about the geochemical, geophysical vectoring that may support that?
In the last 6-9 months, with the partnership with the CODS, the University of Tasmania, and the University National of Mexico, all the experts plus our geological staff, which I want to congratulate the discovery today, we went back to the geochemical data and we realized that the upper portion of the resource has a lot of barite, which is close to the surface here on this longitudinal section. As we go deeper, the barite content is almost disappearing, showing that we are getting into the system. What we had as initial resource was the cap. That's one point. The other thing is some pathfinders that we are finding that antimony has a good correlation of silver and creates some good indication for us to do the geochemical and geological model. So this altogether is a combination: the structural geology, the geochemical model, how to look at the interaction of these faults, the stratigraphy, and identifying these pods of high grade.
Okay, understood. So, I mean, one of the other things that kind of stood out was, and I think you highlight it in the press release as well, is the sort of transition and alteration and lithology with depth. So, can you actually describe what this indicates about the evolution of the epithermal system then?
The host rock that is carrying most of the silver, as you said, is a chlorite hematite rich breccia, right? And on the edges of this, we see variations of concentrations of potassium and iron. And this has helped us to look how this is playing together for another element, that's the silicification, is creating some zones. And when you put this together, we've been able to, in 3D, to model these alterations and help us to guide the drilling, where we can put the drill holes.
Right. So explain that to me. Does that mean you think you're still near to the top of the system, or are you vectoring towards sort of boiling horizon closer to the feeder zones?
Based on everything that we've been collecting as data and the interpretation, we believe that we are scratching the upper portion of the system. So we still have more to investigate down deep. Keep in mind that we are only 400, 300, 450 meters below the surface, still very shallow.
Okay. So how does that compare, or how would you characterize this relative to some of the other silver epithermal systems in that kind of whole San Marcial Occidental?
In my experience in many deposits that I visited and worked in Mexico or even worldwide, I believe we still have a couple of 100 meters, 500 meters still to investigate here.
Okay.
So there's space to double the depth of the footprint of this mineralization, in my opinion.
Okay. So, maybe let's move on to again just helping you interpret the press release and like say the people who may be reading it as well. In terms of the success you've had there with hole 9. How does that influence your priority targeting for moving forward with testing deeper extensions?
It influences in a way that now we know at that elevation, we are able to identify these boiling textures. So we are drilling some step-out holes. The drill hole 11 that's in the news release is probably 150 meters laterally, but at the same elevation. So we start to identify some indicators of where this high grade is in different sections. And then we have a series of holes at 11 and 12. And as in the next phase, we are going to continue to drill deep, always following what we define as a plunge. If you look at the figure number 3, 4 on the news release, you are going to see that there's a concentration of dark red inside the resource that we believe is following a particular plunge That's our orientation inside the resource. And that gives us more certainty to continue to drill on those.
So, okay, so it's still open down plunge. So, and you're going deeper. What does that mean in terms of step out then? I mean, how do you drill something like? Do you step out 100 meters? Do you go wide, long, bigger than that? I mean,
we want to follow the methodology for a step out approach where every 100, 150 meters you can put a drill hole to start with. And then we can define the footprint of the mineralization, the high grade, down deep and down plunge. Later we can come and provide some infill drilling in the middle of this. Okay? The most important point now is to see that we believe that we are really scratching the top of this system, this epithermal system that's high grade. We are now going to put additional holes to define some edges in the top and continue to go at lower levels to continue to expand. And we believe that we have space to really to increase the footprint of this mineralization significantly.
Okay. So would you be eventually sort of revising the kind of resource block model?
Yeah, there'll be in 2026 a new resource model. That's the goal.
Okay.
That's our objective. But now that we are just scratched this high grade, we want to bring more information in a way that we are going to be able to improve the average grade of the deposit, but also add a lot of ounces of silver.
Right, and continuing obviously on the drilling front, you've got a 52-hole phase 2 drill permit, San Marcial, Plomosas. How do you do that? Do you need more confirmation drilling before you kind of commit there, or how does it work?
The 52 drill hole program, it's almost on the final review by the authorities in Mexico. We are very optimistic that we are going to get the permits on that application. How we are going to do that? Initially, it's going to be from the surface, that we need to locate some drill sites where we are going to put these holes that are 450, 500 meters long. That's the average length of these holes. And as we continue to hit and define the geometry of these high-grade zones, we are considering to bring downhole geophysics to really assist us to define the concentration of the sulfides. It's argentite, acantite, gadolinium, and sphalerite, and model potential future directional drilling that can save costs.
In terms of these intercepts, does it affect your thinking on like bulk sampling strategy?
We approach this deposit as a way to define a bulk mineable style of deposit because of the magnitude of the thickness. So we are concentrating on the system or in the model that could provide us this type of intersections, 15, 20, 25, 75 meters wide zones.
Right. Okay. So, and again, given today's race, in terms of the kind of what you're seeing in terms of the structural and lithological controls, does that kind of shift focus towards testing additional structural intersections, or do you kind of keep going with this along strike and down depth strategy?
We are starting to work more along the edge of this anomaly. We need to do some revision of the data because it's important for everybody to be aware that this drilling that we have just released is on the edge of the resource, which is only 20% of the edge of the anomaly. So now we have a group of geologists reworking all the data with all the collection of the data of the geochemical, geophysical, and geological data, together with the discovery holes and the mineralogy. Say, where else shall we go and put some potential drill holes in the next couple of months to start to define additional targets here?
Okay.
We have some good indications of areas that are very highly prospective based on how extensive these blue lines, these faults are, and the brown. So is that we are looking for the intersection of these zones.
Right. Okay. And I guess I'm interested in like how you spend your capital, how you spend your time, and where you think the value is going to be created. Like, obviously, is it going to be along the southeast extension now? How much do you allocate towards expansion? How much towards infill drilling? And I guess ultimately how you integrate this into a kind of planned PEA at Plomosas.
With the 13.8 million Canadian dollars that we recently closed the live financing, the company is really funded for the next 12, 15 months in a way that we almost split 40% of this is part of the bulk sample test mining. That's how to bring Plomosas into some sort of initial pilot scale test work. And we are looking for alternatives even for plants that are available nearby. And the remaining, of course, there's some G&A, but goes to the drilling. We want to concentrate the remaining part of the fund, most of that, in the resource expansion with a small amount for exploratory drilling. Why resource expansion? Because that's going to be fundamental for the upcoming PEA. So the more resources we bring to the PEA, better is going to be the results for the company together with the bulk sample. And also generating some blue sky potential along the anomaly.
And I guess, what do you think the market's looking for? What do you say to the market? Say, right, that's the right thing to do. That's the right way to spend money and the right order in which to spend money because it will create the most value for us now or in the medium term?
So far in our presentations and meeting with investors and including meetings with existing shareholders, people are becoming more aware of the value of Plomosas as a permitted, most of the permit situation that creates a really an anchor, a situation to hold the company, and we can have an alternative to be maybe in the next 12 months in a pilot scale production, and having the blue sky of the San Marcial that's nearby 5 kilometers, providing the upside, because the magnitude of the size of this potential increase in resource at San Marcial at the moment is bigger than Plomosas, much bigger. But Plomosas has one element, is a site that has the infrastructure and the permits. So this in the combination, looking at all the synergies, more and more we look at this, it makes a lot of sense how to integrate these two areas. They have different stages of development, but we need to look at that way.
Okay, and so right, just finish off. Remind me, what obviously great to sort of see this this drilling announcement come out. What are we looking for next over the next 6 months? What are you going to be putting out to the market?
So next 6 months we can have, of course, in the next 30 days there will be more drill holes with the same strategy as SMS 2509. We have three drill rigs on site. We have three drill holes in progress to complete. Then we need to really collect the data and go back to the drawing board and say quotations for the 52 drill hole program. And that is going to create a news flow schedule of drill holes probably for November and December and January and February next year. Additional activities that we continue to do the bulk sample. We have test work in progress at the labs in Mexico with the supervision of Canadian and Mexican engineers, looking at how we are going to polish these bulk sample results to give us the information for the decision for the pilot plant. So this is going to be another flow of news to keep the market. And activities related to how we can really explore the synergies in the region of Plomosas, because as today we have identified some available plants, but we still don't know if we can really achieve a transaction there.
Marcio, I appreciate you making time to talk to us today, and more importantly, talk us through the press release. Appreciate time. Sounds like we'll see you very soon.
Thank you very much.